Right, everyone. I think if everything's going well, we're live and we're ready to go. So I'm delighted to welcome you all to the first webinar of 2024 in the Sustainable Action Dialogue series. My name is Alex, and I'm head of operations here at the Institute of Sustainability Studies. The purpose of hosting these webinars is to eliminate the frequently confusing terminology often associated with sustainability topics, and to enable conversations on content that can assist businesses and individuals in reaffirming their commitment to tangible actions. Today's webinar is all about avoiding the pitfalls of greenwashing, which will be aiming to educate you all on how to distinguish genuine sustainability efforts from mere marketing strategies. The reality is that identifying greenwashing is a skill, from vague, unsubstantiated claims to cherry-picked data and misleading imagery. Greenwashing comes in many forms. So in this webinar, we will equip you with the tools to spot these deceptive tactics, empowering you to make informed decisions and support genuinely sustainable practices. Can we get to the next slide there, Danielle? Give you a brief intro. Perfect. All right. So it's only right that we are joined today by the brilliant Danielle McCormick, who is a sustainability consultant, green marketing strategist, and a number of other things, which I'm sure she'll be able to tell you herself. She's an expert with over 20 years of experience in sustainability and delivering local, national, and European behavioral change and sustainability campaigns. Daniela works to ensure that sustainability messaging is made simple, accessible, and engaging for all. Through her unique blend of skills, expertise, and personal attributes, she has successfully delivered some of Northern Ireland's leading sustainability and behavioral change campaigns. She also helped curate module level 11, green marketing and communication. So it's amazing to have her here today. I could just go to one more slide there. Sorry, Daniela, but before I let her speak, which is why you're all here to hear her speak, not me, I just wanted to let everyone know that we have a comment section below. So if you have any questions at any point, just to write them down, and we'll address them all towards the end of the webinar in the discussion Q&A and wrap up in conclusion. So without further ado, I'd like to pass you on to Daniela, who will give the great webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. That's a very kind intro. Yes, I'm Danielle McCormick. And aside from all of the lovely things that Alex said, that I also am the organizer of the All Ireland Sustainability Network Summit and Awards. So we are going to cover off the topic. We have about 20 minutes or so just to go through a few slides, and then we'll have a Q&A opportunity at the end. So we're going to get stuck straight in, understanding greenwashing. So let's take a wee look at what exactly that means for people. So this is taken directly from the Cambridge Dictionary this year. It is behaviour or activities that make people believe that a company is doing more to protect the environment than it really is. And I think the key element there behind greenwashing, certainly for me, is that it is a deceptive practice. So it is an intentional act on the company's part. So it's the deceptive practice of exaggerating or misrepresenting the company's environmental efforts or the environmental benefits of its product or service in order to create a more environmentally friendly image. And that involves giving a false impression that the company or the product is really more environmentally responsible than it actually is. Really, when you're looking at the whole area of greenwashing, it can be something that's as subtle as a misleading information on, say, packaging, through to the likes of fossil fuel companies claiming to be eco-champions, which we'll touch on a wee bit later in some of our case studies. And again, as we'll see from the case studies that we're literally just about to go through, greenwashing can be seen across all industries. So it's not a case that we can say that it's a greater problem in one area than another. It can be, well, to say it's a widespread problem maybe isn't fair, but certainly it can be seen across any sector. And again, it's just to highlight that it's where companies make those false claims. But luckily, we are starting to see through the likes of the UK Green Claims Code and the EU Green Claims Directive that some of those companies are now starting to be held accountable. But it's not just through regulations, it can also be through staff, customers, And we'll talk a wee bit more about that in a few moments. So I have a few case study examples. We've got 4 in total, and we are going to start with Volkswagen. Now, I'm sure for many of you, you will remember this one quite well. And it was where in 2015, they admitted to cheating emissions tests. And they did that by fitting like a certain number of vehicles with a defect device. And it was that software, when it was going through its emissions test, was able to pick that up and alter the performance level to reduce what the actual emissions level was. And this was going on while to the public, they were claiming how great these low emissions and eco-friendly features were on the vehicles through their marketing campaigns, whereas in actual fact, the engines were emitting up to 40 times more than the allowed limit on those nitrogen oxide pollutants. We talked a little bit about the fossil fuel companies. BP renamed themselves Beyond Petroleum, and they began adding solar panels to their gas stations. But in 2019, Client Earth lodged a complaint against them for misleading the public with its advertisements that focused on their low carbon energy products, when in reality, 96% of its annual spend still went into oil and gas. Nestle, unfortunately, are regularly in trouble. In 2018, they released their public statement outlining its ambitions for all packaging to be 100% recyclable or reusable by 2025. But they were a wee bit hazy on the detail there and didn't really give a clear pathway as to how they plan to tackle that. Greenpeace reacted by releasing its own statement criticising them, accusing them of using more of the same greenwashing baby steps to tackle a crisis it helped create. And in the Break Free from Plastics 2020 annual report, Nestle, along with Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, were named the world's top plastic polluters for the 3rd year in a row. And then our 4th example is the textile industry. And again, this is one that does get a lot of regular criticism, especially when we look at fast fashion. So the textile industry, as you know, is a major polluter. It uses huge amounts of emissions and has a massive carbon footprint in general. But the fast fashion sector, H&M, Zara, Uniqlo, Asda, and Boho, are among a number of companies within the industry that were caught greenwashing. In 2019, H&M launched its own line of green clothing, which they titled Conscious. The company were claiming to use organic cotton and recycled polyester, but when it was delved in a little bit deeper, the claim was found to be nothing beyond a marketing tactic used to make themselves look more environmentally friendly. So hopefully you can see across those 4 case study examples how they were purposely misleading those consumers to maybe be attracted to their products or services. So why does this matter? Why does greenwashing matter? Well, firstly, it's customer misinformation. So that purposeful misleading of customers who are genuinely trying to make environmentally conscious choices may be aligning their purchasing power with your company, thinking that they're doing something really environmentally responsible when actually they're being fed the wrong information. What that leads to is an erosion of trust. At worst, that's across maybe that sector that the company's involved in. And certainly on a smaller scale, it can lead to that erosion of trust for the company themselves. And once they have been found out to be misleading or to be making false claims, there is, of course, the reputational damage for that brand overall. And the reputational damage can be much, much harder to get back overall. And it may never be fully reclaimed. It also dilutes genuine efforts. So for those companies or competitors that are out there actually trying to do the right thing, it can create that general distrust, as I say, in the sector perhaps. But it also means that those companies who are trying to do the right thing can sometimes be a wee bit afraid to say anything at all, for fear that maybe they will also have the finger pointed at them for the one thing that they maybe didn't do right, which we call greenwashing. So that is the opposite, the reverse end of the greenwashing side of things. So yeah, if we take it another step further, what happens beyond that is that it stifles progress. So for the companies that are maybe trying to keep things on the down low and they're saying, oh, we can't really put anything out yet because we're not at the end, we haven't reached the end of that journey. Essentially, by not sharing that information, they're not only not sharing that information with their consumer, they're not sharing that information within the sector, they're not leading by example, and so there's no real driver there for progress. And all in all, it can create that, as I say, stifled lack of progress in general across the sustainability sector. We are now starting to see more regulatory challenges, which I mentioned at the start. So the Competition and Marketing Authority have their Green Claims Code. And then that is very closely aligned, fairly much the same idea as the EU Green Claims Directive. And what that really seeks to do is look more closely at some of the claims that businesses are making. It is a little unclear as to what exactly can happen to those organizations who are found to be misrepresenting or I suppose being misleading in the information that they share. But at absolute best, they will have to remove the advertising materials that they have paid money for and put out there, along with that, I suppose, damaged reputation overall. And of course, the bottom line is that if it is misinformation, if it is greenwashing, actually they're not really trying to tackle the environmental impacts of their what their business practices are doing anyway. So there has been no progress on that, and they continue to cause that long-term damage. So if we look a little bit more at some of the drivers for transparency, now we're quite clear on what it is. Why do we want to go down that route? Aside from all the obvious reasons, but we'll talk about some of the obvious reasons. Consumer awareness, that is on the up. Customers are very, very clued in to the sustainability agenda, and that's both social as well as environmental. And there is an expectation there from your customers to really deliver on those sustainability goals and to work on what's material to you. They also align their values with the values of the brands that they choose to buy from. Competitive advantage. Marketing is very, very important within a business who is keen to sell their goods, their services. The key thing to remember, as we keep touching on here with greenwashing, is that it's the purposeful misrepresentation. If you are genuinely doing great things on your sustainability journey, talking about those can help set you aside from your competitors. It gives you a unique value proposition or selling point that your customers and stakeholders will be interested in knowing more about. Investor and stakeholder pressure. Again, we are seeing boards becoming much more aware. We are seeing shareholders want to be involved more in CSR practices. Also, when it comes to the likes of reporting, trying to get investment, these things are becoming really, really important. And from the investment perspective and finance perspective, lenders are now seeking to reduce their risk by ensuring that you are managing the sustainability elements within your organization. So they are looking for this, and you will find this more and more as you move forward. Media and advocacy groups, they have the opportunity to really put pressure on organizations to drive that sustainability agenda forward. And we are also starting to see a lot more coming out in the press from organizations that are doing great things. Internal commitment, similar to the idea of the board, but especially for organizations who are looking at talent recruitment, especially since COVID, the needs and wants of employees have changed greatly. This is very much on their agenda too, and they too want to align their values with the values of their employer. They want to feel that they are given back as well. So it's becoming really, really important as an employment and recruitment exercise. The digital age and era of information, again, everybody has the opportunity to report on businesses nowadays through social media. Once something gets out, there's no containing it, and it can move very, very fast. Certification programs. Again, those programs are really helping those organizations who are, in fact, doing great things to put a good stamp on that. So we have things like fair trade, we have B Corps, we have ISOs. There's any number of accreditations that will be perhaps relevant. There's different accreditations relevant to different industries, such as sustainable tourism accreditations, for example. But as I say, it really helps to draw out those people that are doing great things from the people who say they are doing great things. And then, of course, with the regulatory scrutiny, which we talked about through the Green Claims Directive. So how do you, as a consumer, spot greenwashing for yourself? How can you tell the difference? Well, we have a short video here, which I'm going to share. It's only about a minute long, and this touches on the Green Claims Code and helps draw out things to look for, or if you're an organization, things that you want to bear in mind when you're creating your own marketing.
Green credentials. They're worth shouting about, right? More people want to buy green than ever before, and businesses are responding. But as a business, you need to be sure your green claims aren't misleading. It's your reputation that's at stake. The CMA's Green Claims Code will help you stay on course and avoid misleading your customers. To follow the code, ask yourself, are your claims truthful and accurate? Businesses must live up to all claims made. Are your claims clear and unambiguous? Your customers should be able to understand the claims you're making. Don't confuse them with vague terms or phrases. Do your claims omit or hide important information? Your customers must be able to make informed choices and be given the full picture. Do they only make fair and meaningful comparisons? Products being compared should meet the same needs or be intended for the same purpose. Have you substantiated your claims? Make sure you provide evidence to back up your claims and that it's robust and credible. Do they consider the full life cycle of a product? That's its overall impact from creation to disposal. Use the Green Claims Code to get your green claims right. To find out more, go to gov.uk/greenclaimscode. Brought to you by the Competition and Markets Authority.
Okay. So just to recap on some of those key points, greenwashing tactics, things to look out for. So we touched on the idea of those vague or generic terms. Again, just a little bit ambiguous in terms of the detail on there, which of course leads into lack of detail, where they may be saying, similar to Nestle, saying how it's going to tackle their plastic situation by 2025, but didn't really say how they plan to do that. Unsubstantiated claims, again, where they're unable to back up any of the apparent facts that they are sharing. They have no stats or any information, nothing on their website or any of their materials to maybe talk a little bit more about the detail on that or how they came to that claim. Hidden trade-offs, where some products or companies might focus on one aspect of their environmental impact while ignoring other significant issues. So that's known as a hidden trade-off. So for example, a product might claim to be energy efficient, but ignore other negative environmental aspects such as excessive packaging, for example. Misleading imagery, again, that's where, for example, you might notice on packaging or product information that you're buying that they've used imagery that includes nature or greenery or environmental symbols without a clear connection to the actual environmental practices of the product or the company. So again, it'd be another quite common technique. Irrelevant information. So it might, for example, highlight insignificant or irrelevant environmental features to detract from the critical issues within the organization. So for example, a product might emphasize being CFC free when CFCs are not commonly used maybe in that product category anyway. Let's see, where are we? Lack of progress. Again, it doesn't mention any areas of improvement. So legitimate, environmentally responsible companies often acknowledge areas of improvement. So if they're on that journey, they'll continue to update on their progress, things that have worked well, things that haven't worked so well. But where they maybe haven't progressed or their claims remain pretty static, it's a sign that they're not really moving forward on anything. Again, a lack of certification. Now, I want to be clear, I appreciate that certification in itself has a cost. Not all companies of all sizes can afford to go down the route of accreditation, but certainly where a company has been able to share details of any accreditation journey that it's been on, you can be sure that it is a matter of fact claim that they can stand over that. Okay, I think that's everything on that one. Yeah, and so that brings us towards the end. But just before we jump into any questions or discussion pieces that you might be interested in, we do have additional areas of information. So we have the Green Claims Code, that is via the .gov.uk website, where we share the video. You can also download a checklist there to help you look at your own marketing claims. And of course, there's also the Green Claims Directive as well, which you can look into. And again, both are fairly similar in what they're trying to achieve. There's stacks of information out there if you're looking for examples on companies who have been called out for greenwashing, and some of the examples that we use today have been taken from some of those sources. And yeah, that is everything. Alex, it's back to you if we have any more questions.
First of all, thank you, Daniela, for your insights. That was fascinating. Hopefully everyone here has a better understanding of greenwashing and will be able to navigate through the misinformation in future and can take the learnings from today to improve their company's sustainability messaging, you know. But yeah, I'd like to encourage everyone to ask their questions now, throw it in the comment section underneath, and we'll start working through them. I had one there a minute ago. It's just gone now from my view, but it was from Jennifer. She wanted to know how much of this is all UK and EU related. Like, will there be anything that's applicable to the rest of the international markets?
As I say, at the moment, the main ones that we're looking at is the EU Green Claims Directive as well as the UK's Green Claims Code. The two are very closely aligned. I guess that would apply to any marketing that's happening across the UK or Ireland. So I can only assume. I mean, I don't claim to know what other states and countries are doing by way of green claims codes themselves at the moment. But where they are advertising within Ireland, UK, Northern Ireland, they will also be held accountable by those organisations.
Okay. I hope that answered your question for her. As I say, guys, please feel free to throw a few more questions in there. We'll spend some time going through them. There was one thing I actually wanted to ask myself, to be honest. It was kind of how much of the greenwashing would you say is unintentional? I know it's a very difficult question, but like obviously people aren't always going out there to mislead. It is just a lack of understanding maybe from themselves and so on. But what's your take on that, Daniela?
I mean, I would genuinely like to think that, especially when it comes to some of the slightly smaller organizations, well, I was going to say I'd like to think that a lot of the time, maybe that's naive, that they're not intentionally greenwashing. I know that there are organizations, as we saw examples of those, who have actually kind of gone out of their way to try and make claims about things that they are doing or intend to do, and they have no intention of doing that at all. But one of the things I would always say to clients or businesses that I'm working with is, if you are on a sustainability journey, it is okay to say you're on a journey. So many, again, will feedback, oh, I don't feel that we're really ready to go out with that information because we're not at the end of the journey yet. But actually, the end of the journey, as time moves on, those goalposts will continue to move. that journey is an ongoing process. So at what stage are you going to start telling people what you've been doing and some of the great things that you're getting on with? At the end of the day, businesses are still there to make money. And if there is the opportunity to tell a genuine story about some of the amazing things that you're doing on your journey, why would you not feed that into your overall market strategy?
Yeah, no, you're totally right. It can show improvement year to year as well, just with your messaging, your understanding, and your own actions, you know. So, you know, I completely agree that, yeah, sharing is the best way forward, because you'll be told yourself from other people outside looking in how things are going, you know.
That's true. And then aside from that, it also helps to drive that change right across that sector as well. Because if you're being seen to do it and this other person's been seen to do it, it helps to position you not only as a thought leader, but there is a general movement towards more sustainable practices that becomes commonplace and others will follow.
No, for sure. You're right. We actually have a question here from Pat as well. So he wants to know how much greenwashing do various airlines claim regarding carbon offsetting, you know? Well, what are your thoughts on
Yeah, I don't have stats and facts for you. I think that that's a really difficult industry. It's a really difficult one. And I think one of the like I'm always very, very pragmatic. When the technology exists for airlines to be able to fly without creating carbon emissions, that would be great. But we're not there yet, and we're not there yet with a lot of technology in terms of those environmental improvements. But they are creating a service that is highly in demand. So is the customer going to stop asking for flights? Or is the customer prepared to look at offsetting their carbon footprints? So it's a very, very difficult one. It's easy. Yes, the aviation industry does get a lot of criticism, but if you look at the carbon footprint overall of the aviation industry compared to some other sectors, it's actually much, much smaller. So it's a very difficult one to balance. And I definitely don't want to criticize any one sector in particular. So I think that people would also have a lot to say if they stopped flying altogether.
Probably. All right, actually, we have another question here now from Dermot. He wants to know basically about the penalties and impacts of what's going to happen if countries and if businesses, excuse me, are found to be greenwashing.
Yeah, as I say, that's quite unclear. That is unclear because I asked this question myself to a representative of the Competition and Marketing or Markets Authority at a time. In theory, it says within the EU Green Claims Directive that there is the regulatory opportunity for them to what way did they put it? Because it wasn't fine, but basically they can take people up on that. But it didn't say whether that's going to be a fine, whether they just certainly they can make them withdraw their ads. I know that for a fact. But I don't know legally whether there's going to be a challenge. But perhaps as time moves on, it's very hard to say. It's a little bit of a grey area at the moment.
No, you're right. As you said, in 5 years' time, there probably will be some sort of committee in place to deal with this. But as of today, yeah, we're not quite there yet, unfortunately. What have we got here? Bob wants to know, what is it? Yeah, he wants to know, can all the companies, he's noticed that a lot of companies nowadays are using trees and other, you know, greenery for just their imaging. He wants to know, can this be regulated? He works at Irish Trees, crucially. Yeah, that's important.
At the end of the day, that is where, I mean, if there's an issue and you as a consumer feel that that's misrepresenting, you can certainly contact whoever happens to be the regulatory body for that. In Northern Ireland and the UK, that would certainly be the Competition and Markets Authority. They do go through a lot of those ads and campaigns and try to seek that out. And as I said, that was one of the things that was pointed out as being, I suppose, an example of misrepresentation. I think I know it touches on a question you asked earlier. I think it's something like they initially found that 40% of claims that were being made, green claims that were being made, were misleading, which is why this has all kicked off. But if they are found by the regulatory person to be putting out misleading information, yes, they can be made take that imagery off their advertising materials. But as I said, it would have to come from a higher power.
What kind of higher power?
Yeah, as I say, that probably the likes of the Competition and Marketing Authority, CMA.
Okay, I think we might have, that might be everything. So far, that's all the questions. So unless you've any final statements there, Danielle, I might wrap it up for us.
No, I think that has covered everything. I do want to be clear that whilst we've spent a lot of time looking at the negative side of greenwashing and not putting information out there that shouldn't be out there, and I absolutely believe that to be the case, I'm also quite an advocate for, if you do believe you have some good information to share, that you can stand over your claims, you've any stats or facts that can back up where you say you are on your journey, then absolutely get that information out there and share that with your stakeholders. So
perfect. All right, thank you so much, Danielle. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to speak to us all, both me and everyone here that's listening live and watching the recording. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you everybody for joining.
Perfect. All right, for everyone else, if you wish to learn more about green marketing and greenwashing, you can enroll now for our ISS courses, our diploma. We covered the length and breadth of sustainable business planning, along with a particular focus on how businesses can tailor their operations to report on new regulations, while also ensuring continued profitability through our foundational and comprehensive diploma course. It is credit rated, CPD certified, and it helps businesses and individuals learn all about sustainable business planning and how to create a resilient business to combat growing environmental and social challenges while remaining competitive and relevant. So our next diploma begins next week on the 21st of February. So you can email us or book with us or go onto our website and you'll be able to enroll there. So thank you again. Thank you, Daniela. Really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone here. So it's been a pleasure. We look forward to seeing hopefully many of you at either future webinars or on the course. So keep an eye out on our LinkedIn page and website for more details. All right. Thank you, everyone.